welcome to the inaugural broadcast of The Male View. In this show, we'll be discussing various topics that stick out to guys all over town, all over the state, quite possibly all over the country.
Films, politics, what kind of smokes you like, what kind of things you like to drink, the things the ladies won't let you talk about nowhere else.
We're going to be discussing things on this show freely, but to a certain degree with maturity and respect. So, that being said, we offer...
Which means we don't want to get sued by the FCC.
We offer viewer discretion to everyone, and we warned you, so let's begin.
Girls jumping on trampolines is not going to be on our program. Check the Man Show.
Yeah. All right. Our first subject is movies, and you're going to love this one, viewers, because this is the most talked about film for 2015. We're going to be discussing...
The next Hunger Games.
No. Yeah. What's better? The Avengers!
Avengers? I thought that was the best movie of last year.
Oh, it's going to get better this year. Viewers, for those of you who don't know or have not seen Captain America 2, we know that it is going to be the hot topic of 2015. And why is that, Matt?
Because it's got Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver.
Oh, it's going to be the clash of the Titans. You see Fox going against Marvel. Marvel going against Fox. You don't know what's going to happen. But we're going to give you some tidbits so when 2015 comes around, you're going to be ready for it. All right, let's begin. What do we know about the Avengers so far?
What we know about the Avengers so far: Captain America is far too 1950s. Thor likes to wear his mother's drapes, according to Iron Man. Tony Stark can't be beat as Robert Downey Jr. And the Hulk is amazing. We also know that Hawkeye will never get his own film. Sorry, Hawkeye is never getting his own film. He's not that great.
Sorry, Marvel viewers.
And that... Well, can I say this without the FCC suing us? The Black Widow has some Tego bitties. Tego bitties.
And we all know that Samuel L. Jackson
is one bad MFer.
Oh, yeah. And we know he's going to be in this movie. And we know he's going to be he's just going to be... Words can't describe how great he's going to be.
But that goes to a good point. You were talking about the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes with the politics of today. Doesn't it seem a little bit... And I'm talking about the scene where, the cops look into his car as he's getting there, and he's wanting to know if they need to see his lease agreement. I just feel like, what's with all the race crap lately? And both film and not so much racism, but this perceived thing of, if you attack somebody, it must be because of a race or a religion or a creed. It can't just be because they do something stupid or because they look suspicious. It has nothing to do with the fact that is a brand new, heavily expensive car, and Samuel L. Jackson looks like an angry, aggressive man. It couldn't have been that. It's got to be because he's black. The cops are looking at him. Same thing with just like back when George W. Bush was, in office. If you said anything against him, you had to be unpatriotic, communist, terrorist. There was always that threat. So you didn't want to say nothing against it because you didn't want to be seen as a treasonous son of a gun. Now, can't say anything about PRISM, drones, none of that stuff, because you don't want to be seen as a racist when people tell you that even though you got some valid points, the only reason you have those valid points is because you don't like him because he's black. And I'm just wondering if maybe they could have left that line out of... Couldn't the movie have played without playing to the race card?
I agree, but to a certain point. Viewers, if you don't know the full history of the movie, I strongly suggest you take the time and do so, because there is quite a bit of history leading up to the movie. For those older viewers out there who remember All the President's Men in 1976, they based the movie somewhat off of that political ideology.
Even as much as getting Robert Redford.
Robert Redford, I think, was one of the greatest villains of all time. For those of you who know Marvel, who know the comics, I hate to do a spoiler this early in our broadcast, but Hydra could not have gotten a better leader than Robert Redford.
A better new leader.
Well,
They had a pretty good one in the Red Skull.
oh, well, that's going to be discussed later.
They had a pretty good one with the Red Skull.
Well, that's going to be discussed later in the broadcast.
And I don't normally say that because Hugo Weaving, besides V for Vendetta, I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan.
Well, I liked him in Lord of the Rings, but...
That's the one everyone rides back to. He plays the same thing in everything he does. He's one of those actors. He always kind of plays the same thing.
We can all agree he somewhat sucks.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, we were talking about how that leads up into the Avengers. What we don't know is all the little details. Now, we're going to share with you viewers some rumors and tidbits that have been circulating on social media and the web, and it's up to you to believe this. We got our info from somewhat credible sources, but nothing we'd bet our top dollar on. Let's start off with one of my personal favorites. I'm a big Iron Man buff.
Love Iron Man.
I love him. His armor, his
I've made every one of the premieres as Tony Stark.
It's something that you just can't imagine. The Hulk Buster armor. We know that's in the comic books. We know it's been referenced a lot in cartoons. There are speculations that that armor is going to make an appearance. What do you think, Matt, about that coming in?
I think before you do Hulkbuster armor, you got to have a good Hulk film, and they haven't had a good standalone Hulk film yet. They're not even in talks about it yet. They're talking about maybe they'll do it or maybe they'll do a TV show. But until you give a good Hulk story, a good Hulk background, and a good look at the Hulk, right now he's just a surface character.
But we can all agree that Mark Ruffalo, the actor,
deserves his own stuff. After what he did in Avengers and how well he did in Avengers, I think he had one of the best lines when he said that the way he deals with, keeping the anger in check is that he's always angry. That is probably one of the best heartfelt lines in the film and really catches you. And then we don't get to... I would love to see Planet Hulk. I would love to get to see how he can play off with that and do it.
So, we've covered the Hulk armor, but, we need to talk about the relationship between Tony Stark and Bruce Banner. Because we know at the end of the first Avengers, they go off, and we have no idea what they're doing. What do you think they're doing? Do you think they're working on some big project? Or you think that, according to multiple sources, they're creating Ultron? And I'm sorry, viewers, for those of you who don't know this, but there's heavy talk that Tony Stark will create Ultron. Now that leads into big speculation about how that's going to shape the movie.
Yeah.
And one can only imagine that that's one of their projects. I mean, they go off and they work somewhere.
I would have to assume.
You think that's what they're going to be building?
I think that could be a very good speculation.
So, we've talked about two major parts. We need to talk about S.H.I.E.L.D., the police peacekeeping organization that we've seen in 4 or 5 different movies leading up to the Winter Soldier. But when you see the Winter Soldier now, you see that it's gone. Poof. No more.
No more Winter Soldier.
No more S.H.I.E.L.D., no more police. How is that going to affect Avengers? Because you don't know what's going to bring them together.
I was really questioning on getting rid of S.H.I.E.L.D. I had a hard time with it. I had a hard time with them getting rid of the whole organization. But at the same time, I can see why they did it.
And why is that?
You're speaking to... You got to relate to your audience and relate to society. And currently, our society is noticing an upcrease, a very high upcreasing of police state in this country. Supreme Court ruling that it's okay to enter your home so long as you're not there without your consent. Supreme Court's rulings that they can enter your home and whenever the hell they wish. You know, you're seeing a lot more of your rights and freedoms and stuff being taken away by the people that are supposed to be enforcing the laws and be there to help protect your rights and freedoms, being the ones taking them away. And so I think that they had to take this messianic, can do no wrong, saintly organization within the government that was supposed to be there at the highest levels to protect us, and show that even they're not above it. Even they are sticking their hand in the till. Not all of them, but quite a few of them are sticking their hand in the till. And it seems realistic, and at the same time, you see from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and you see from Captain America too, that whereas the government just sits behind a desk and has little hearings, and, you know, in the end you figure they're just going to get a slap on the wrist. Society wasn't okay with it, and you see a lot of people that are having an issue with this group being as dirty as it was.
For those of you who don't know, we're going to do a spoiler, and we apologize for that at the male view, but we have to do it. For those who know, Hydra was in fact part of S.H.I.E.L.D., and S.H.I.E.L.D. was in fact part of Hydra. So, going back on what Matt said earlier, politics plays a heavy view now, it would seem, in Marvel, and you can see it going into Avengers 2. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more of Nick Fury now that he's an adventurer. We can see more of the Cap. We can see more of Iron Man. We can see more of the Hulk. I think the enigma of the group that we don't know is Thor.
I do. I think he's the hardest one to really, besides Hawkeye, to really give how he measures with the rest of the group. It's kind of like the Superman. I hate to say it because I love Superman, but it's kind of like the Superman, and that's not to say I don't like Thor, but you know what I'm saying. He's like the Superman of the Justice League. Everybody else, you know, and maybe not even that, because quite a few members of Justice League ain't from the planet Earth. You know, he's the only one currently that seems to be indestructible. All this massive amounts of power, you know. He can fly, he can do all this nice stuff, you know. And he just, he's too unequal with the rest of them.
Well, we all know that he's on Earth in the movie. His second movie, Thor Dark World,
Yep.
He's on Earth.
Yep.
He left Asgard, and he's with his love interest. So we know he's going to be on Earth during the film. How do you think he's going to come back into the fold? What do you think?
I think what's going to be especially difficult with the coming back into the fold is that film audiences haven't read a lot of the comics, and so they're not really up to date on that stuff, and so they don't know that in the comics he does wind up with Sif. He does wind up with his Asgardian girlfriend and his Asgardian woman, and so I think it's going to be hard for them to leave the Natalie Portman happy ever after, the human with the alien thing, and move on from that. But at the same time, it's going to be hard for him to coalesce with these other people because he's kind of an uppity a-hole, man. He really is. He's got his nose in the air. And you can just hear that from his speech patterns and everything, that he sees himself as superior to the rest. It's hard to have somebody that seems to be so superior and have that kind of power that they maybe are superior, being a part of a team like that. And I think it's going to be extremely difficult to have those come together like that.
All right. Well, that being part of the team roster and everything, what do you think about the possibility of War Machine coming in? Because Don Cheadle has said that he's in it. We know that because he's done numerous interviews.
Sure, and if they can give me the real War Machine, you know, Terrence Howard, I'm all for it.
For those of you who don't know, viewers,
and then give me the real War Machine and follow through on what he says in the first movie next time. Yeah.
for the Viewers, for those of you who know the actors that portray the characters, Terrence Howard played James Rhodes in the first movie, and then by the second movie, we were all under the impression that Terrence Howard was in fact in it.
Especially since at the end of the movie, when he's looking at the suits, he looks at the War Machine suit and says, next time you assume that the next film he was going to be War Machine?
Unfortunately, he was not. We had Don Cheadle. That is not to say Don Cheadle is not a great actor.
Absolutely not.
He is...
Hotel Rwanda was a... Everything he does is like liquid gold to me. I just wish they would have treated Terrence Howard better.
Yeah, and we'll discuss this in a later segment, but that's not to say that the character War Machine is not portrayed well.
No.
We know that he's in it, but you don't know if he's going to stick with the Iron Patriot armor like you see in the third Iron Man.
I hope not. I kind of agreed with them. That was a stupid name and a stupid thing. And not to mention the Iron Patriot, for those that don't know, the Iron Patriot was created by a villain.
It was created by Norman Osborn.
It was created by Norman Osborn as Norman Osborn was president. And since Norman Osborn is not currently in any of the Avengers films the president, to have the Iron Patriot in there already is kind of like smacking comic book fans who are your lead audience in the face and saying, you're just going to have to go ahead and believe our continuity gaps.
Now, let's explain what Iron Patriot was supposed to be. Viewers, when you see the movie the Iron Man 3, and I hope you see it or have seen it, you'll know what I'm going to tell you about. Iron Patriot was supposed to be a cross between Iron Man and Captain America put together into the 21st century. Because Iron Man couldn't be there all the time, and Captain America wasn't discovered yet until later in the film saga. That's what brought it about. But you see that they've changed so much in the movies, they've skipped a good chunk of the character history. That's going to be a big...
Yeah, they introduced Captain America before they introduced the Iron Patriot. I mean, they jumped around, they introduced characters that they shouldn't, they introduced characters late. I love the movies, but they got to remember that their biggest fans are the ones who have actually read these things and have actually gone out for many years, harassed and attacked and bullied for what they were interested in. And these same bullies now are the ones that are like, oh, dude, did you see the new film? You know, it's okay. For all you guys out there, it is okay to be a comic book geek. It really is.
Don't hide it.
Yeah. You're not weak, you're not a wuss, you're not, whatever you want to call it, you're not stupid and a loser for liking comic books.
You are just someone who thinks differently from other people. That's nothing to be ashamed about.
And don't let them tell you, oh, well, if you ever want to get a girlfriend, you ain't going to be able to be into these comic books. And if you want to believe that stuff, go to a comic book convention. Go to one comic book convention and tell me them ladies there are dressed in, with their nice outfits. Tell me they're going after a CEO or they're going after the jock. They're going after guys like you, and they don't look bad. So that it comes from a guy who's married to someone who don't look bad and has had more than his fair share of play. I promise you, you can get ladies and like comic books. It's not a problem.
And viewers, later on in the series, we're going to be bringing some guests on that will offer their views. This is just a taste of what's to come, really. This show is straight to the point. We give you the male perspective, much like you see the lady perspective on The View, on television. We're just giving you the honest truth.
Just the honest truth.
Plain and simple. And everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
And in the words of Sean Spencer from Psych, if you don't like ours, you can have a nice, warm, freshly brewed cup of Suck It. Seriously. I mean, you don't have to watch. Change the channel, man. Change the channel if you don't like it. But we're going to be blunt, we're going to be honest, and we're going to say things that, officially at some of those meetings that us men go to make up the rules, maybe we'll be violating that code just a little bit, saying the honest truth about things. Maybe people don't want the honest truth coming out, you know.
And with that, we're going to end this inaugural episode by saying thank you for taking the time to sit and chat with us. Next time on the Male View, we're going to be discussing the ever-growing threat of political BS and just a taste for what's to come. I want all of you viewers to Google IRS scandal. That's just to show you what's going to be coming next.
I'd also like to thank one other person, a great small business here in Salem, Oregon called Foley Productions. They've given us this beautiful space to work in. They do a lot of weddings, events, stuff like that. They are located in the Reed Opera House, and we are heavily, heavily blessed to be allowed to use this space to do our show, and we thank them for it.
Thank you. It means a lot.